the 12th of the 12th, 2019, and today is just a reflection about how things have been since these wrongdoings started. Um, as I tried to explain in a previous upload, the initial wrongdoing um, could have been prevented, um, and as a consequence of that initial wrongdoing, um, as I've established, things have exacerbated and worsened. This brings me to the point about the position of politicians. And as I've said yesterday, I've uploaded these updates about the human rights violations that I'm experiencing and the complaints process that I've adhered to that hasn't been acknowledged. The point I'm getting at is that the role of the politicians and the agencies involved have a big responsibility to have the professionalism and the integrity to recognize when mistakes have been made. It's not always easy to admit our mistakes, and we all make mistakes, but I think when it comes to health and when it comes to safety and protection of citizens, I think it's a big responsibility of politicians to be able to say where they've gone wrong. And unfortunately, the protection that should have been afforded to me wasn't provided. And as a consequence, things have worsened. And the issue that I have with all of this is that there haven't been procedures adhered to, policies haven't been adhered to. There's been information withheld from me, and there's been false information provided to not only myself, but there's been false information provided to others as well about the reality of these circumstances. So it's regrettable and unfortunate coming up to Christmas thinking how things would be very different if people hadn't been so rash with their judgment calls and interferences and intrusions that have occurred. With regard to the human rights that violations that I'm experiencing, I've mentioned about how my livelihood has been affected and my health has been affected and my career. The big worry for most people is, being respected and having your rights acknowledged, and politicians acknowledging when they've done wrong. Because, as I've said, this has been systematic. The vendetta of hate crime, etc. And it seems obvious that when those that are violating systematically decide to not just undermine, but to withhold not only information, but, opportunities and whatnot, and particularly the financial theft and abuse that I've experienced, and the financial exploitation that I've experienced. It seems that by taking and ruining a person's wealth, they're not just ruining the health of a person. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We all have our needs, and my needs have been disrespected, and my rights have been disrespected, and that has all happened as a consequence of the original wrongdoing that shouldn't have ever have occurred. And the unfortunate part about it is that the protection and safety that all citizens are entitled to wasn't provided. And as a consequence, um, you know, so the politicians that are aware of this situation have a responsibility to me and the people that matter to me about the wrongdoings that have been perpetrated unjustifiably against me. Um, my human rights, as I've said, regarding my right to freedom, my right to health care, my right to legal facts and guidance and advice and information, have all been withheld from me. Um, that in a democracy isn't tolerable for any person to be putting up with, and particularly when it comes to health. As I've said, the misinformation and disinformation um, is all very serious, because the facts are the facts and the truth is the truth. And no matter how you want to paint it, you just, the canvas is still white underneath. And that's the truth of the situation in this. The truth of this is that things wouldn't have been as bad if there wasn't so many falsehoods presented and relayed to people that have interfered and intruded in a human rights assault in Tralee, County Kerry, against Emer Griffin McElligott. Um, so I'm just hoping that the politicians will acknowledge the wrongdoings, and I hope there won't be any more abuse of power, because there's been so many manipulative tactics and so many malicious vendettas to harm my livelihood, my family life, and my career that are all pretty serious, for any person to be experiencing, high up or down low. There isn't any person with any control like that to be violating spirituality, profession, family life, legal rights, etc. It's very serious what's happened. It's been happening for a while now, and this Christmas 2019, I'm just hoping that politicians will give me a good, fine, big present of honesty and accountability, because I'm very tired with the suffering that's happening. I'm very tired with the wrongdoings. I'm very tired of untreated medical ailments. I'm very tired of the mental health professionals intruding and interfering and misdiagnosing and abusing their positions. So the abuse of power is very serious, and people controlling situations that we have no control over whatsoever is even more serious. So for today, the 12th of the 12th, 2019, I'm just hoping that there'll be some honesty in this situation, because for a woman that hasn't, you know, caused any kind of cause or reason for others to be doing this is unfathomable. Like I've said, privacy is precious, and my homes have been violated. People have trespassed into the privacy of my homes. And as I've said, that wouldn't happen with anyone else without consequences. So the thing about it is, I want the politicians to admit their faults, and I want the politicians to acknowledge how they've wronged me, and how they've damaged me, and how they've ruined my family life and my career by not acknowledging the hate crime and the tactics, the foul play, etc., that have been perpetrated unjustifiably. So, it's Christmas, the season of goodwill, etc. And hopefully accountability will come to the fore, and hopefully politicians will be honest enough to rectify the wrongdoings unjustifiably perpetrated in an honest and respectful and professional way. So That's my message to Dáil Éireann today. I hope they hear me loud and clear, because as a woman that's been wronged and lied about, defamed and violated, um, everyone deserves better than that kind of treatment. And the abuse of power and the manipulation and whatnot, it's just horrendous. So for the 12th of the 12th, I hope for Christmas that the politicians and authorities will acknowledge the wrongdoings that I've experienced and the violations of my constitutional rights and my human rights.